Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joshablon, and welcome back to our series on humans. Now, today we have kind of just a short little video, because today we are going to be covering eyebrows. Now, eyebrows are just rather simple, yet some people really don't know how to do them. There are a couple tricks with doing eyebrows. Some people think that eyebrows, you're just gonna kind of draw lines like that, kind of to represent hair, and you just do it enough so that it's dense enough, and then it just goes that way. That is 100% not how to do an eyebrow. You want to avoid that at all costs. Because eyebrows, the individual hairs on it, they actually face many different directions. And you'll notice that if you go look in a mirror and look at your own eyebrows. So, just to start off, I'm going to kind of show what we're going to be working towards. The beginning hairs that we're going to be working on, we want them to kind of be facing upwards. Then we want them to start leaning a little bit up until the point where they're facing completely sideways and going in that direction. And so we'll start with kind of eyebrows that are, or the eyebrow hairs that are kind of going like this. Kind of start facing up. Then eventually we're going to, well, probably sooner than later, we're going to get them like this. They're going to be arching. It's going to be a slow change from kind of this really subtle one when they're facing upwards, kind of to a little bit more dramatic. And it just keeps getting more and more dramatic of a curve the further you go, up until the point where finally, not too far into it, you're going completely on your side with these hairs and going over. Now, the specific shape of your eyebrow all depends. Like, some people have different shapes of eyebrows just because that's how they naturally are, and some people, well, not specifically some people, just lots of the time it also depends on your expression that you have. If you're angry, it might kind of be arching more that way. The whole shape of the eyebrow might be arching that way. If you're surprised, it might kind of be up here and maybe a little bit down there if you're sad. Like, it all depends on kind of your expression and how your eyebrows naturally look. In general, though, it is quite thick on this part of the eyebrow. It gets rather curvy in here, but it doesn't really lose much of its thickness yet. And so it'll just go down quite normally. Now it's kind of that dramatic kind of just sideways hair, and it keeps going like that. Just to add maybe a little bit of realism, we can add just a little kind of part that branches down a bit. Some people like adding this to their characters because they make it look a little bit better. We can just add some lines that are slowly changing here just to kind of make it look a little bit better. And then generally it comes down to kind of just a point. So yeah. There will be like small hairs that are maybe coming up and over and everything, just all the way throughout the eyebrow, just so that it doesn't look too solid and just one shape, because really it's hundreds of little tiny shapes that are making the actual form of the eyebrow. So yeah, generally when you're drawing an eyebrow on a head, the glomerulus, like the eye, is going to kind of be like in here, this kind of area. Not that big, of course, but yeah. And then there will be the glomerulus here, or not the glomerulus, the glabella here. Wrong bio word. And so, yeah, generally when you're making expressions, the glabella, which is going to be around here somewhere, is going to be what brings most of the expression to the face. Simply because it'll crinkle in certain ways. Like, if you're angry, it'll crinkle up. If you're happy, it'll do different things. And so we'll go over that in another video, just kind of dealing with how we can deal with expressions on a face. But yeah, eyebrows, they also generally aren't, like, they can have little patches of lighter and darker colors, so we're just going to add maybe a few little lighter strands going through it too. just to kind of give it a little bit of variety. We'll just assume that it's kind of brown. Differences between women and men. Men are probably going to have a little bit thicker, bushier eyebrows, and yeah, and women, they're probably going to have a little bit of slimmer eyebrows. They might have had them shaped, so if they're shaped, then they may have more dramatic ups and downs in specific parts, so just remember that. So yeah, you can just add a little bit of different color to it and everything. What I might suggest is kind of going through the whole thing, just kind of adding a little bit of darkness to it, because all of this hair is going to be adding a little bit of shadow to everything underneath it. So in the end, it is going to be a little bit of darker underneath. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest blurring any of it, just because that would get rid of some of the detail you need. Just erasing a little bit, because it won't be affecting those parts of the skin, probably. And yeah. Okay, and so that's kind of generally how you're going to do an eyebrow. If you want, you could probably add some like dramatically lighter areas just to kind of bring out a specific highlight that you may have wanted in a specific part, or you could be doing an eyebrow in a different color. I don't quite know. You could add darker bits, you could add lighter bits. If your character has a unibrow or something, you might extend it. You might make them shorter or longer. There's a lot of variety and lots of different ways that you can do your eyebrow. So, yeah. Maybe I'm just going to blur it just a little. No, I don't need to blur anything. Yeah, those orange-ish kind of ones that I put in are just kind of to show that some people might like to highlight specific parts. I didn't particularly highlight any specific part. I was just putting them in kind of to show that you can just kind of to change the brightness of your color tone just to get the effect you're looking for. You don't want to go to some drastically different tone and start putting in like white to make your tone. You really don't want to do that. If you're close enough to be starting to do like individual hairs, then it might be appropriate to kind of add like a very, very tiny little bit of white here and there just to kind of add a little bit of shine to it. But that is going to be if you're going into tons and tons of detail, and generally you're not going to be doing that, especially when you're kind of zoomed out on a drawing. So if you're doing a really in-depth draw on an eyebrow or hair or anything, then yeah, you might want to do that, but in general I would say just avoid it. So yeah, you want to be focusing on this part though, the direction that your eyebrow hairs are going to be pointing. At the beginning they're going to kind of be pointing up, and then very quickly they are going to start arching over and getting more and more dramatic arches until they're basically completely sideways going down. And so yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Let me know if this has been useful for you, and I will see you in the next tutorial.